start of the 10.
Good morning. My name's Steve Elms, and I'm joined today on our start of a 10 by Giles.
Morning.
And Caroline.
Good morning.
This is that kind of little experience that moves towards our morning service at 10:30, where we just try to introduce a little bit of what's coming up in the morning and to open up some exciting themes together. But this morning, I want to start with you, Caroline, actually, because this is your last morning doing this, isn't it? And being in church here at Bookham Baptist Church.
Hopefully not my last ever.
Not that, oh, yeah.
My last for nearly a year, yes.
Nearly a year. And why is that?
So I've got quite a big bump here on my stomach, and it's a baby. It's a baby's coming. So I'm about to head off on maternity leave.
That's wonderful. So a joyous, wonderful reason for not... But it's quite sad for a lot of us because we're not going to see as much of you, and those of us who work with you are going to kind of really miss you being around. Where will you be on a Sunday?
So, although I'm a member here at Bookham Baptist Church, and I will be here from time to time, so you will see me, but on a Sunday, William, my husband and I are mainly going to be worshipping at The Gathering in North Leatherhead.
And what is The Gathering?
For those who don't know, The Gathering is a small church which launched about 7 years ago, but has come out of local people who have been working and ministering in North Leatherhead for years, and it's a sort of informal church community that we partner with. So I spend every other Sunday there, as it is, being part of the leadership team. But we also live in North Leatherhead, so it's just a walking distance away from our house, and it's a nice, small, intimate community.
No, that sounds fantastic. Will we see you occasionally here?
Yes, definitely. Our hope is to come along once a month. Sort of depends a little bit, particularly in the early days, on the babies. Well, what the baby wants, really. But we're hoping to get out of the door and into the building at least once a month. And also during the week, I'm hoping to come along to some of the parent and baby and toddler groups as well.
Brilliant. So we'll see you around. And I guess some people might be wondering, when we see you, is it okay to chat with you and so on? Is it, as long as we don't take you into some kind of work thing? Is that
yes,
okay?
Of course it is. It'd be quite weird if no one spoke to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I guess maybe there is that bit of apprehension about being a bit overwhelmed.
Yes.
And I'm sure my head won't be in any sort of church leadership work type mode, but will very much be in changing nappies and not having enough sleep mode.
Okay, no, brilliant. So we don't need to cross the road and that kind of stuff.
Please don't.
No, that's brilliant. Okay, so one of the things we do as a Christian community is pray, and one of the ways in which we pray is bless. We bless one another. And one of the things I want to encourage this morning is some blessings in your direction. And at the end of our start of a 10, Giles and I are going to just pray some prayers of blessing on you. But it may be that if you're online, and Giles is really keen to hear from anyone who's online.
Yeah, no, so I'm looking at my phone because what we have is an open channel. So we like to pose questions to you, but also for you to tell us a few things and tell us when we ask you questions or whatever. And we might be asking you to bless and put some blessings out there for Caroline as she goes into this new adventure with William.
So what is a blessing? But actually... kind of speaking of the things we want for someone, the good things of life. And so particularly in this last little section of your pregnancy before you give birth, that maybe that you might really experience a deep joy in that time, which sometimes is characterized by maybe being a bit uncomfortable and so on. But so what is it that you would want for Caroline and for William in this next phase and into maternity? And if you want to send something,
do put it through onto the chat on the YouTube channel. That'd be fantastic.
And we'll include that in our praying
include it in
a little bit later on. Fantastic. Okay, now what we're going to do now, something slightly different from usual, is we're going to hear someone's story. We've begun of late to gather stories, sometimes stories of faith in the workplace, but sometimes stories from the community where someone has a vision for community, a heart for community, and is making a difference in some way. And so this is one of those stories, just a snippet of one of those stories that we captured really recently. This is Edna, who's involved in the community fridge.
Hello. We are so welcome to Love Local. My name's Phil, and I'm joined here.
My name's Gail. Hello.
Hello. It's so great to have you with us on our first ever Love Local broadcast to Bookham, Fetcham, Effingham, and Leatherhead. Why? Because we live in a fantastic community, don't we, Gail?
Absolutely do.
All right. And so tonight we have got some really special guests lined up for you. I'm calling them our local celebrities, all right? But they are just so wonderful people. We're so thrilled to have them with us tonight. How are you reaching out into the community?
Well, almost 2 years ago this week, we started the community fridge, which initially was all about saving food from landfills. Right. Little did we see the horizon, which was going to be lockdown and nobody was going to be able to come out. So instead of having people come to us to take the food that we collected in the supermarkets, we had to rethink how that could work. And we got volunteers together and we started delivering bags of food to the people that we knew were more vulnerable, or we were given names from various charities and organisations that felt these people might need support. A lot of people were self-isolating, so they couldn't go to the shops anyway. So we started off doing about 20 bags, and within 3 months we were doing 200 bags.
Wow.
And it stayed like that for a year.
Gosh. Is that mainly Bookham or wider
Bookham,
afield?
Effingham, Fetcham, mostly Bookham to be fair. We were really surprised when we got as many addresses as we did.
Yeah.
There, just a little snippet of an interview which you can actually find online. Now, this is a new ministry for our church, and it's called Love Local. And we're interviewing local people who have a vision for their community and bless their community in some way. People who are part of the church and others who are not part of the church. This is a way of building bridges using our media skills. And you can look this up by searching Love Local Bookham. So if you key that in, Love Local Bookham, and then what you then need to do is watch what's there, like what's there, and subscribe to that channel, which is a new channel separate from our regular YouTube channel for Bookham Baptist Church, and then spread the word. And one of the ideas might be that if you think, hey, that's an interview I'd really love to send to a friend who'd be interested in that, maybe interested in volunteering in the work that Edna was talking about, then share on Facebook or by other means, by social media, and spread the word. So a new ministry, we'd really love you to get involved in that. Right now, and I'd like to encourage you to keep sending in, actually, have you had any...
I've had one lovely prayer of blessing for you from Nikki, who's out walking on her own today. She's not out with Lauren today, walking. And she says, I'm praying for enjoyment of the last month or so before the baby arrives, for safe arrival, for peaceful sleep, and for my invitation to be a godmother.
I think she's already
Accepted.
wanting me to name the baby after her. So
yes.
godmother
Right.
as well might get
Obviously.
confusing.
Yes.
Yeah.
But thank you, Nikki. That's lovely.
So, in a moment, Caroline's actually going to bring our high five, which is 5 minutes on what's coming up in the service and what Caroline will be bringing. But before that, and to give you a chance to collect your thoughts, we're going to have our song of worship today, which is brought to us by Sarah Hart and Gail Commandeur. Gail will be leading our worship a little bit later in the service. But here's a bit of lockdown vintage. This was recorded like over a year ago at a time when it was not really possible to come into church. And this was captured, and it's absolutely stunning. It's the song, How Great Is Our God, and I'll hand to them right now.
The splendor of the King, clothed in majesty, let all the earth rejoice, let all the earth rejoice. He wraps himself in light, and darkness tries to hide, and it trembles at his voice, it trembles at his voice. How great is our God, sing with me, how great is our God, and oh, we'll see how great is our God. Age to age he stands, and time is in his hands, beginning and the end, beginning and the end. The Godhead three in one, Father, Spirit, Son, the Lion and the Lamb, the Lion and the Lamb. How great is our God, sing with me, how great is our God, and oh, we'll see how great is our God. How great is our God, sing with me, how great is our God, and oh, we'll see how great is our God. He's the name above all names. He is worthy of all praise, and my heart will sing, how great is our God. He's the name above all names. He is worthy of all praise, and my heart will sing, how great is our God. How great is our God, sing with me, how great is our God, oh, we'll see how great is our God.
It's absolutely beautiful. Thank you for that, Sarah and Gail. I'm going to turn now to Caroline for our high five, which is 5 minutes to give us an idea of the message you'll be bringing later on.
Yeah, so today I want to start with a story, actually.
Great.
And this is from back in the summer, end of July, and very early on in my pregnancy, and I was kind of keeping it a bit on the down low. I wasn't really telling many people. And I was on a hen party, and the bride didn't know that I was pregnant. And I was trying not to give it away, but I was feeling extremely sick, very, very tired. And one of the activities of the day was an escape room. And if you don't know what an escape room is, you have an hour in a room where you're given all these activities. You have to solve various problems. And if you don't, you're trapped in the room. So I was with about 6 other women, and we had 1 hour to solve this. And it was an Egyptian tomb that we were trapped in. Now, rather than rushing, everyone else was kind of rushing around from activity to activity. And there's actually no instructions with these activities. You have to work out even what they're asking you to do. So I thought, because I was feeling quite queasy, I thought, I'm just going to sit here at this table and stay here and make this my task. And it was there were about 15 cubes, and these cubes had hieroglyphics on them. Some of them, not all of them had hieroglyphics, but some of them did. Some of them had a few different sides with hieroglyphics, and some had none. And obviously, I realised you had to stack them in some sort of order, but they didn't tell you what you're trying to achieve. And all you could do is walkie-talkie through to the sort of overseer, who was some disembodied voice, saying, "Is this correct?" And every time he would say, "No." And so I got to the point where he said, "There's just one in the wrong place." And I'd been doing this for about 40 minutes. And then I got to the point where I thought, oh, he's obviously wrong. I think I'm right. I think it is fine. I think I've solved it, and he just can't see properly because he's not in the room. And he told me that wasn't the case. And then I thought, oh, well, there's something wrong with the game. They've obviously written some hieroglyphics that shouldn't be there. So it's not that I'm the problem, it's this game that's the problem. And I was kind of quite happy with this. And then this other lady, who I had never met before, came over and started meddling with my blocks that I had spent 40 minutes working on and had nearly got right. And she started taking them out. And this feeling of, I was trying to be polite, but at the same time, I was screaming, "What are you doing? I've spent all this time working on this, and now you're pulling everything apart." And clearly, she had the right idea. We took away a few layers, and finally, we got everything back in the right position. There was one block that had been put out of place, that I had put in the wrong place. And finally, we solved the problem. We escaped the room with 2 minutes to go, and all was well. But it kind of highlights my attitude towards building, that I think it's good enough. It's good enough, that'll be fine. I'm the same with flat pack furniture. When I'm building any sort of furniture, that often I'll get to the end and then realise that there's a few pieces left over that probably should have been part of the furniture, but then I think it'll be fine. But of course my husband, who's much more of a perfectionist, will come back and say, no, let's undo everything, go back to where the problem was and solve this from the start. And these ideas have really captured me as I've been reading the passages for this week, because this year one of our themes is about formation, about how we're shaped and formed by God. And it strikes me that in all the passages that we're looking at today, there's an element of deconstruction that needs to happen in order for us to be formed well. Wow. And that God is actually a master craftsman. He doesn't take my attitude of, it'll probably be fine, we'll just get away with it. He takes time. He wants to go back to where there's an error and correct it. He wants to build on solid foundations. And so there's this we need to accept that deconstruction is actually a critical part of formation. It doesn't always feel comfortable, it doesn't always feel good, but it's important nonetheless. And one of the stories we're looking at today is Peter, where he encounters Jesus. Has this miraculous haul of fish. And there's this kind of supernatural moment where Peter realizes that Jesus is someone far greater than him, has all this authority and power that he doesn't have. And Peter kind of falls on his knees and says, "Go away from me, Lord," because he realizes this person who's just worked this miracle is holy and I'm not. And the thing that Jesus says to him is, "Do not be afraid." And then Jesus says, "Come on, follow me." And so there's something about God does this work which can make someone feel quite vulnerable, the deconstructing, but then he also draws them close and says, "Don't be afraid. Come with me. I've got work for you to do." So we're going to be hearing a bit more about that later on.
Wow, that's really great.
There's lots of layers in that, Caroline, what you're saying. I can imagine myself doing something similar when someone comes after 40 minutes and goes, no, you've done it all wrong, do it like this. Did you actually scream out loud, or was it?
No, that was an
in your
internal
head?
scream. Yeah, I'm sure she couldn't discern that at all. She thought it was very polite.
Yeah, yeah. Well, so this idea of actually being undone in order to be made, and that the way God comes to do that, but as he moves towards us, his intention is to, as you say, draw us in, to help us with what needs doing, and then to actually send us and take us somewhere.
Yes.
I love that whole movement, which I think you're going to bring out later, aren't you, as you look at those stories.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, we're running close to time, or possibly over time.
Yeah.
I wonder if we might do what I signalled at the beginning and just offer a prayer of blessing for you. I'm going to start that, and I'd like you to finish it.
I'll bring in some of the online
and
points.
Bring in what's online. Okay, so I'm going to do this in a really unusual way. I've got a gift for you, okay? And I'd like you to open it, and you'll see that in there, from the chickens at the end of our garden, are 4 lovely eggs. And it's a symbol of blessing. It's not a prophecy of quadruplets, but simply of the abundance of the time ahead as you bring a new life into the world, and all that happens, all the joy and wonder around that, and then learning to live a different kind of life. Just really want to pray God's blessing on you.
Oh, thank you, Steve.
Yeah, and we've had some lovely prayers of blessing coming in as well. It's really great. They're not just positive thoughts. That actually we're directing our blessings to a living God, aren't we? Who's active in our lives, which is fantastic. So just to say, we just pray that you'd get good sleep, you and William, which I said big amen to, and also that you would have lots of peace and goodness happening over the next few weeks before the baby comes, and that you and the baby would be surrounded by love and friendship and goodness. So we just pray that joy of being a new parent with all the challenges as well, but also that amazing joy would just be over you, Caroline, as well. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. I receive all of those blessings along with the eggs. Can I keep the eggs?
You can, yes.
As a sign of your blessings.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Fantastic. So we are now at the end. In about 5 minutes' time, there'll be people gathering. I think there are already people gathering down behind me and below for our 10:30 service. There's still time for you to jump in your car or get on your bike or run to the service. So please do come and join us if you'd like to. But you can also join us via the Zoom call. There's a link that you can click on and join us in that virtual way. So every blessing, and we'll see you next time.